There is a kind of person who always makes others feel loved and safe. They are willing to listen when you are struggling, often take the loss upon themselves, and rarely say no when someone asks for help. If someone makes a mistake, they will be the first to say that everything will be okay. But when they are alone, they treat themselves in the complete opposite way. In their mind, there are no longer gentle words of encouragement, only thoughts like, "I am so useless. I always ruin everything," or "No one really needs me." The frightening part is not that these thoughts appear, but that they believe them to be true. If you recognize yourself in what you have just heard, keep watching, because this is not a weakness in your personality, but a psychological mechanism that has quietly formed over a long time. Many people believe that only those who have experienced major trauma end up hating themselves. But the reality is very different. Countless people continue to study, work, laugh, and live seemingly normal lives while constantly feeling that they are not good enough. They doubt their own abilities, struggle to accept compliments, and often believe their success is nothing more than luck. A single small mistake is enough for them to convince themselves that they are a complete failure. What is important to understand is that this is far from rare, especially among young people facing pressure from academic or career achievements, appearance, and society's expectations. Over time, those feelings of insecurity quietly grow stronger until self-criticism begins to feel completely normal. But the truth is that these thoughts do not accurately reflect who you are. They are simply the brain's way of interpreting your experiences through a negative lens. If you have ever wondered why a single criticism can stay with you all day while 10 compliments quickly fade away, the answer lies in how your brain is designed. The human brain has a mechanism known as the negativity bias, which causes it to prioritize remembering potential threats over pleasant experiences. Thousands of years ago, this bias helped our ancestors survive by keeping them alert to danger. However, in modern life, the brain still relies on that same ancient system. As a result, every small mistake, every criticism, and every rejection tends to stay with you for a long time, while your achievements and words of encouragement are quickly treated as normal. This can make many people believe they are truly inadequate, when in reality, they are simply seeing themselves through the negative lens created by their own brain. Interestingly, many of the things you dislike about yourself may not be as bad as you think. One study found that when people listened to several voice recordings without knowing which one was their own, they often rated their own voice as more pleasant than the others. But the moment they realized it was their own voice, their judgment immediately became much more critical. This shows that the problem is not your appearance, your voice, or your personality. The real issue is the negative filter your brain applies to everything related to yourself. We naturally notice the good qualities in other people, yet constantly focus on our own flaws. Once you understand this, you begin to realize that many of your insecurities do not reflect reality, they simply reflect the way you see yourself. If you enjoy content that explores human psychology and personal growth, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next videos. Psychologists once studied lottery winners, people who had experienced serious accidents, and a group of individuals living ordinary lives to see how their happiness changed over time. The results showed that lottery winners felt happier only for a short period before their emotions gradually returned to their usual level. In contrast, those who went through painful life events often took much longer to recover and remained deeply affected by what had happened. This reflects an important characteristic of the human brain. Happiness quickly becomes familiar, while pain is stored as a warning to help prevent the same mistake from happening again. That is why a single small failure can stay with you for years, while dozens of successes are quickly forgotten. It is not because you are weak, it is because your brain is giving priority to the experiences it believes are most important for keeping you safe. To understand why negative thoughts have such a strong influence on us, we need to go back thousands of years. When our ancestors lived in the wild, detecting danger was far more important than enjoying moments of pleasure. Missing a bush full of ripe fruit might leave you hungry for a few more hours, but ignoring the sound of a predator could cost you your life. Because of this, the human brain gradually evolved to prioritize potential threats above everything else. Even though modern life has changed dramatically, that ancient survival system is still active today. A single critical comment on social media can stay in your mind for an entire week, while dozens of encouraging words are quickly forgotten. Your brain is not trying to make you miserable. It is simply doing the job it learned through millions of years of evolution, keeping you safe. That is why learning to recognize and manage these automatic reactions is so important. Human beings have a deep need to be accepted and to belong. Long ago, being separated from the group often meant losing the chance to survive. Because of this, the brain developed a system that makes us especially sensitive to rejection and constantly motivated to maintain our relationships. In modern life, that instinct is still very much alive. We fear being judged, disappointing others, or failing to meet their expectations. To avoid those outcomes, many people strive to be perfect, constantly try to please everyone, and hide their weaknesses. But the price they pay is becoming increasingly critical of themselves. Every small mistake is treated as proof that they are not good enough. Over time, that harsh inner voice becomes such a familiar part of their daily thinking that they no longer even notice it is there. Most people are not born hating themselves. That belief is usually shaped by repeated experiences during childhood. A child who is praised only for getting high grades, loved only when they behave perfectly, or constantly compared to others, may gradually believe that their worth depends on achievement and perfection. When they make a mistake, instead of thinking they simply failed at one task, they begin to believe that they are not good enough. That belief quietly follows them into adulthood, making every criticism or failure feel like proof that they are unworthy of love. The good news is that these beliefs are not the truth. They are simply conclusions formed from past experiences, and they can be changed once you recognize where they came from. Have you ever felt this way? Share your story in the comments. You never know. Your experience might help someone else realize they are not alone. What is important to understand is that negative beliefs about ourselves do not disappear as we grow older. Instead, they gradually become an invisible filter that shapes the way we interpret everything around us. A simple piece of feedback from your manager can make you believe that you are incompetent. A disagreement with a family member can quickly turn into the feeling that you are a terrible person. Rather than seeing these events as isolated situations, your brain connects them to a deeply rooted belief that you are simply not good enough. Over time, self-criticism becomes an automatic habit, happening so quickly that you no longer notice it. Every failure is treated as evidence that confirms those negative beliefs, making the cycle of self-blame even stronger. That is why the first step toward changing the way you treat yourself is recognizing the invisible filter that has been shaping your thoughts all along. Psychologists suggest that most people carry 3 different versions of themselves in their minds at the same time. The first is your actual self, the person you are today, with your strengths, weaknesses, and perfectly normal limitations. The second is your ideal self, the person you hope to become, more successful, more confident, and closer to perfection. But the greatest pressure often comes from the third version, the person you believe you must become in order to be accepted by others. This version always has to be strong, cheerful, pleasing to everyone, and almost never allowed to make mistakes. As the gap between these 3 versions grows wider, you begin to feel like a failure no matter how hard you try. It is not because you are truly inadequate, but because you are constantly comparing yourself to a standard that is nearly impossible to reach. The more you chase that impossible standard, the more likely you are to lose your inner peace. As the gap between who you truly are and who you believe you must become continues to grow, a quiet conflict begins to take place inside your mind. Every day, you try to appear strong even when you are exhausted, keep smiling even when you are overwhelmed, and continue helping others even when you have nothing left to give. On the outside, people see someone who is kind, dependable, and always willing to care for others. But on the inside, you feel as though you are never good enough. This ongoing inner conflict slowly steals your joy, keeps you under constant stress, and causes you to blame yourself whenever you fall short of your own expectations. What you truly need is not to become more perfect, but to learn to accept yourself as you are. If you found these insights helpful and would like to explore more fascinating topics in psychology, take a second to like this video and support the channel. Have you ever wondered why it is so easy to forgive other people but so difficult to forgive yourself? The answer lies in how much information you have about yourself. When you look at someone else, you usually see only one mistake or a single moment in their life. You do not know everything they have been through, so it is easier to empathize with them and give them another chance. But when it comes to yourself, you remember almost every failure, every embarrassing moment, and every decision you wish you could take back. Your brain gathers all of those memories together and uses them as evidence to convince you that you are not good enough. The problem is that this judgment is deeply unfair, because you are comparing all of your own weaknesses with only a small glimpse of someone else's life. Once you recognize that difference, you begin to realize that the problem is not who you are, but the way your brain processes information about you. After spending an entire day trying to meet everyone's expectations, many people come home feeling completely exhausted, but still cannot relax. Instead of resting, they replay every mistake they made, blaming themselves for the words they wish they had said better, the decisions they believe were wrong, or the tasks they failed to finish. They assume that the harsher they are on themselves, the more they will improve. In reality, constant self-criticism does not make you better. It only puts your brain under even more stress. It is like trying to run faster when your body has already run out of energy. The more you blame yourself, the more your motivation fades, the easier it becomes to fall into anxiety, and the harder it is to recognize what you have done well. To break free from this cycle, you first need to understand that treating yourself with kindness is not self-indulgence. It is an essential part of helping your brain recover and continue to grow. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to reduce self-criticism is to change the way you speak to yourself. Whenever you make a mistake, instead of immediately thinking, "I'm so useless," or "I always ruin everything," take a step back and imagine that the person who made the mistake is your closest friend. You will probably notice that you would never speak to them so harshly. Instead, you would calmly look at what happened, think about what could be improved, and encourage them to keep going. The interesting part is that your brain can learn to apply that same balanced perspective to yourself. Simply changing a few words in your inner dialogue, for example, replacing "I'm terrible" with "I made a mistake and I can learn from it," can significantly reduce negative emotions. You do not have to force yourself to love yourself overnight. What matters most is learning to treat yourself with the same fairness and compassion that you so naturally offer to others. People who constantly criticize themselves often share one common habit. They find ways to dismiss every compliment they receive. When someone tells them they did a great job, look nice, or are kind, their first response is usually, "It was just luck. Anyone could have done it," or "It's nothing special." They believe that accepting praise will make them arrogant or less motivated to improve. In reality, repeatedly rejecting positive feedback only reinforces your brain's belief that you have little value. Starting today, try changing one small habit. When someone gives you a compliment, resist the urge to explain it away or deny it. Simply smile, say "thank you," and allow yourself to accept that positive moment. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but every time you accept a compliment, you are teaching your brain to see yourself in a more balanced, fair, and truthful way. Many people believe that if they take time to rest or put themselves first, they will become selfish or irresponsible. Because of this belief, they constantly try to meet everyone else's needs while ignoring their own emotions and well-being. But that is not how the body and brain work. Mental energy is like the battery of a phone. If you keep using it without recharging, it will eventually run out. When you are constantly exhausted, sleep-deprived, and under stress, your ability to focus declines, your emotions become harder to manage, and you no longer have the patience to treat the people around you with kindness. That is why resting, setting healthy boundaries, and making time for self-care are not signs of weakness or selfishness. They are essential ways to restore your energy so you can live a healthier, happier life and continue sharing your best with others. Changing the way you see yourself is not something that happens overnight. Habits of self-criticism are built over many years, so your brain will naturally tend to fall back into old patterns of thinking. But what truly matters is not becoming a perfect person. It is letting go of the double standard you have been applying to yourself. You are always willing to forgive others when they make mistakes, so why not give yourself the same opportunity? Treat yourself with the same respect, understanding, and compassion that you so freely offer to the people around you. As you change the way you speak to yourself, those negative thoughts will gradually lose their power, and your sense of inner peace will begin to return. If you found this video valuable and would like to keep exploring fascinating insights into psychology and personal growth, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our latest videos.